So when are you resigning? Are you going to be here at all for going into next year with the budget hearings and the legislature or anything?
No, I haven't set a last date, but it'll be probably sometime close to the inauguration.
I wanted to ask about, I could have missed it because I was multitasking, but no real mention of raising teacher pay, which you know has been such a huge issue.
Yeah.
I mean, is that part not even on the table anymore?
No, that's done through the state budget when they release it. That's not part of the Department of Education budget, and so when we come forward and make our presentation on education, it's related to the Department of Education budget. So that, all the salary stuff, state employee salary and teacher salary will all be done through the governor's budget release.
And is that the same with the changing the BEP formula? Would that be something separate?
The BEP formula won't be changed, so I think what will come out of the task force will be a set of principles that then will go into discussion, but it won't impact the BEP allocation for this coming year. So that'll be different.
Looking back on your tenure, kind of what are some of the things that you're most proud of, and maybe some of the things that were a little more challenging than maybe you anticipated going into the job?
I can't remember any challenges. I'm going to have to think hard. I'm most proud of just the results for kids and the fact that kids are a half year ahead of where they were 4 years ago in Tennessee, and that is by far the piece that I'm most proud of. I think when I think about things that are challenging, we've made a lot of progress with most kids. We've made a lot of progress with economically disadvantaged kids. We've made a lot of progress with African American kids. There's some groups of kids that haven't made as much progress as others. English language learners, students with disabilities, and I think that's a bunch of work that still has to come. I also think there's a huge challenge remaining for the state in how do you tie that work to the college opportunity. It's great that we've got free post-secondary opportunity, but we have far too many kids who aren't prepared to take advantage of it academically, and that's a lot of work that still has to get done.
Can the ASD stand on its own 2 feet? I mean, it sounds like there's some question about whether they can survive without the race to the top money.
No, they'll be fine. They're going to operate on their per pupil, and they'll be fine.
Will this be, though, the first year that would have to happen? I assume it would.
Well, this school year they've got raise the top funds, and then next year would be the first year they don't. So during the 15-16 school year, they won't have raise the top funds.
The governor's kind of, a lot of people have said, in terms of talking about, picking your replacement, a lot of people have suggested that it needs to be somebody from Tennessee. Do you think that you're sort of being somebody from outside of Tennessee, did that help you have maybe a more objective view on how to deal with problems, or do you think that it kind of hindered you in the sense that maybe there were some political tripwires or things that you didn't really kind of see, or maybe didn't have a sense of as somebody not from Tennessee?
Probably a little of both. I think coming from outside of the state means you don't come in with a bunch of relationships in state, and that's got a bunch of minuses in terms of the relationship building piece, but it's got some pluses in terms of you're not tied to or associated with any group or any special interest or anything like that, and it frees you up to just think about things objectively. So I think there's some pros and some cons to being an outsider.
What's the impact of this upcoming year being the first without race to the top money?
I think it'll be a modest impact. Our districts have been planning for it, and we've been planning for it at the state level. At the state level, we invested the money in things that were sort of infrastructure building and one-time costs. And at the district level, they've been planning for this. They've known that they weren't going to have the money to spend. So I don't think you're going to see a noticeable thing. I think the biggest thing that we have to figure out, not this year, but before the summer of 2016, is the summer training. And can the state continue to give the summer training, which I think we'd like to do.
And why do you think it's so important?
Well, first of all, the teachers like it, so our survey results show that teachers feel like they're getting value from it. But second of all, our internal studies have shown that teachers who go through the training do better in the classroom, both in terms of the effects on their observations, but also in terms of the effects on student achievement. And so it makes a difference, and we do it at a pretty low cost per participant, so it's a lot of bang for the buck if we can do it.
I don't mean to circle back to something. I'm just trying. I want to believe you, but the whole ASD thing surviving without this money, help me understand how they could go from getting millions from the Race to the Top program to get started to sort of being weaned off of it completely and make that work. I mean, there's quite a bit of overhead there.
Yeah, there's actually not that much overhead. They don't have a ton of overhead, and so they've gone from 3,000 students to 6,000 students to nearly 10,000 students, and they grow that quickly, partially because they had schools, but partially because some of the schools are one grade level at a time, and so even the existing schools grow, and so from a percentage basis, the amount that they need to run goes down every year. So you need startup money because at first you don't have that many students, you don't have that much per pupil, but you still need an administrative office that's the same size because you still have to deal with the federal programs and all that sort of thing. So their central administration isn't growing, but the number of students does grow, and so that's why you need upfront funding on it.
And do you see them directly controlling any more schools? Are they going to get out of that business and just sort of be in the charter authorizing business from here on out?
I think that's a question for them, but I think their intent is to do significantly more charter authorizing than direct management of schools.
Any plans for what you do next?
Not sure. We'll see.